Okay, this video is going to give us an introduction to what a fraction is and what a fraction might look like. Okay, so it's just an introduction to how we start thinking about fractions. Should remind us what those fractions are. So when we're writing a fraction, we write it in a specific way. We start with the vinculum, which is that line in the middle. Okay, and that tells us we're talking about divide, because a bit like your divide sign is your line across and your dot on the top and the bottom. A fraction is very similar to that. Okay, so we start with that line going across. Okay. Then we think of if we were given a shape here, okay, and we might be asked the question, what fraction of that shape is shaded? Okay, so we do our vinculum. Okay, we think about, right, how many parts have we got all together? Okay, so shaded and unshaded. So we've got our square, our whole, and we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 parts. Okay, so that 4 is our denominator. Now that's the lower part of our fraction. Denominator. Okay, so 4 parts all together, okay, is our denominator. And then you might be asked the question, what fraction is shaded? Okay, so then we look at the fraction that's shaded. Well, it's 1 part of our 4 altogether. So it's 1 that goes as our numerator, which is the top part of our fraction. Okay, so the denominator is how many parts altogether, and our numerator is how many parts shaded, or you might be asked how many parts are unshaded. So in this one, we've got 3 parts unshaded. So our numerator would be 3. Okay, so we'd say there's 3 parts unshaded, and there's 1 part shaded, and you can see that our 3 and our 1 add up to our total number of 4. Okay, so the unshaded and the shaded part should always add up to your total number of parts. Okay, so you've got them there. Let's just have a look at one more there. So let's have a different shape. Let's do a circle this time. Ooh, as round as I can get it. Okay, I'm going to come up there. Now, the tricky thing when you're drawing fractions is, the thing about fractions is they need to be equal. That's a really, really, really important word when we're thinking of fractions. It's equal parts. Okay, so here is my circle. Okay, you might think of it as a cake, you might think of it as a donut. Okay, but I've split it into 3 equal parts. Okay, so what fraction have I got that's shaded? Let's do our shaded over here, and we'll do our unshaded over here. Well, how many parts have I got all together? I do my vinculum. I've got 1, 2, 3 parts all together, so that's my denominator. And how many parts are shaded? Well, I've got 2 parts shaded here, so my fraction shaded is going to be 2/3. Okay, my unshaded, I've still got 3 parts, so I do my vinculum and put my 3 as my denominator because that doesn't change, and I've got 1 part that's unshaded, and again 1 and 2 we can see adds up to our 3 parts in total. So when we're thinking about what fractions look like of a whole, okay, the denominator is how many parts you have, and the numerator is how many parts are shaded or maybe unshaded, depending on what the question asks for. Okay, so that's what a fraction might look like.